please take a moment to silence and turn off your cell phones so they don't interrupt our speakers. In our last debate of the day, we have a discussion on a very, very controversial topic. We're going to hear a debate over this House would recognize same-sex marriages. And we're going to hear from the affirmative side, represented by Cody Peck and Brett Moy, and the negative side, Luke Bennett and Jack Wilson. If you would, join me in welcoming our debaters.
How's everybody doing? My name is Brett Moy. I'm going to speak to you today about same-sex marriage. What if I told you that there was a certain group of Americans that have been systematically oppressed since the construction of this great nation? Also, despite the passing of the Civil Rights Bill in 1964, this group of Americans does not even have the God-given right to love whomever they choose. Even today, in 2011, homosexuals are still denied the same rights as every other American citizen. The negative may try and convince you that homosexuals make bad parents, but the fact is, every state allows them the opportunity to adopt. Also, the most important fact of the matter is simple. The American people support allowing gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender couples the same rights as every other couple in this country. The United States prides itself on always being on the side of freedom, and it's past time that we grant that right to all of our citizens. Same-sex marriage is supported by the American people. The majority of American citizens support same-sex marriage according to a new Gallup poll from 2011 in October. It says, for the first time in Gallup's tracking of the issue, a majority of Americans, 53%, believe same-sex marriage should be recognized by the law as valid with the same rights as traditional marriage. Also, according to CNN polls from 2011, a majority of Americans in favor of same-sex marriage, with 51% saying that marriages between gay and lesbian couples should be recognized by the law as valid, and 47% opposed. Also, according to the White House website, President Obama supports gay marriage, and the majority of Americans voted him into office. The White House website claims that in October, President Obama has expressed his support for the Respect for Marriage Act, a legislation that would uphold the principle that the federal government should not deny gay and lesbian couples the same rights and legal protections as straight couples. The Huffington Post journalist Turkle also reported in October of 2011, President Obama forcefully called for the repeal of the Defense of Marriage Act at the annual Human Rights Campaign fundraising dinner. Not only does President Obama support same-sex marriage, but our founding fathers would have supported same-sex marriage. There's this article written by Thomas Jefferson. Some of you guys may have heard of it. It's called the Declaration of Independence. And it states that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among those rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Denying homosexuals the right to marry violates all of these above American values, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Describing marriage as sacred, or defining it as a union between a man and a woman, is unconstitutional. Describing the union of a marriage as sacred is unconstitutional, so much so that our founding fathers felt it necessary to make this the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Calling marriage sacred clearly shows that opponents of gay marriage simply oppose it because of their religion, violating the separation of church and state. Gavin Newsom, the Lieutenant Governor of California, said in 2004 that sanctity is a religious category that is or ought to be irrelevant to secular law. Okay, maybe the negative never really cared for the stinking First Amendment anyways. So just for people like them, our Congress felt it necessary to defend the rights of the oppressed, again in our Constitution. This time they passed the bill we know today as the 14th Amendment. It reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protections of the law. Homosexual couples simply are not given an equal protection under the current laws, and therefore, these laws violate the rights laid out in our Constitution. All right, the more I think about it, the negative may just not respect any part of our Constitution. Well, maybe they will respect the Supreme Court of the great state of Connecticut. The Supreme Court of Connecticut struck down a bill defining marriage as a union only between a man and a woman, stating on October 10, 2008, the Connecticut Supreme Court struck down the act concerning gay marriage, ruling that the law was discriminatory and unconstitutional because it established a separate and therefore inherently unequal institution for a minority group. Same-sex couples cannot be denied the freedom to marry. Even though the negative feels that homosexuals should not be allowed to marry, the facts are simple, and the beliefs of the negative simply violate the core values of our founding fathers and the values laid out in our Constitution. The majority of this country supports gay marriage and support allowing this oppressed minority the same rights as every other citizen. We, as Americans, are responsible for ending this oppression and ensuring that every individual in this great country of ours has the same freedoms as every other citizen.
Can both of you guys stand near the podium for cross-acts? Please.
My name's Jack. On my good side. Do you think the poll of Americans will stay consistent over time? Just saying that they're for same-sex marriage. As a
Do
whole.
I think it will stay consistent over time? I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long?
How long? Till the end of time.
For that time? Okay. How do you know it'll stay consistent?
Well, for the past year, they have been consistent.
For the past year? Okay, so do you really think Obama actually cares about gay marriage?
Yeah, I mean, he did repeal the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, so
Okay.
obviously he cares about the homosexuals,
Okay.
the rights.
Okay. Most Americans at this time currently dislike President Obama. So do you think this could be a false statement into getting citizens to possibly like him?
I think he's a politician, but I mean, there's one thing other politicians.
Okay. Let's see. Now, do you think his plan to enable same-sex marriage to happen, do you think it'll fall through? For say if he doesn't get elected.
I'm not really sure what the question is. Do I think his plan for allowing same-sex marriage will fall through?
Yeah.
No, I think it'll pass sooner or later. It's just a matter of time.
Just for reference, it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, at. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Luke Bennett, and I'm here to tell you what's the negative side of same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage, it could provide a slippery slope into the views of what marriage is supposed to be. Gay rights activists claim that these marriages should be allowed because it doesn't hurt anyone. But it could start a chain reaction that destroys the whole idea of what marriage is supposed to be. The biggest danger in homosexual civil marriage presents the enshrining into the law of notion that sexual love. If the state must recognize the marriage of two men simply because they love each other, upon what basis can it deny marital recognition to a group of two men and three women, for example, or a sterile brother and sister who claim to love each other? Homosexual activists protest that they only want all couples treated equally. But why is sexual love between two people more worthy than state sanctioned that of love between 3 or 5? When the purpose of marriage is procreation, the answer is obvious. If the sexual love becomes the primary purpose, the restriction to marriage couple loses its logical basis, leading to a marital chaos. Second argument I'd like to propose on is, can same-sex relationships, people with same-sex relationships, can they do a good job of parenting? David Blankenhorn of LA Times said that all scholarly instruments seem to agree for a healthy development, what a child needs more than anything is a mother and a father who together made the child, who love the child and love each other. For these reasons, children have the right, insofar as a society can make it possible, to know and to be cared by the two parents who brought them into this world. The foundational human rights document in the world today regarding children in the 1989 UN Convention on the Rights of the Child specifically guarantees children this right. David Blackman also said that the last time I checked, liberals like me supposed to be in favor of internationally recognized human rights, particularly concerning children who are typically society's most voiceless and vulnerable group. Every child being raised in same-sexual couples will be denied his birthright to both parents who made him, every single one. Moreover, losing that right will not will not be a consequence of something that at least most of us views as a tragedy. Such as same marriage didn't last, or unexpected pregnancy where the father-to-be had no intention of sticking around. On the contrary, in the case of same-sex marriage and the children of those unions, it will be explained to everyone, including the children, what something wonderful has happened. For me, what are we encouraged to permit to say or not to say to one another about the society owes its children is crucially important in the debate overall initiatives like the California Proposition 8, which will reinstate marriage's customary man and woman forms. Do you think that every child deserves a mother and father? With adoption available to those children whose natural parents cannot care for them, do you think that fathers and mothers differ from one another? Do you imagine these biological ties better to children? How many parents per child are best? Do you think that 2 is better than 1, 3, or 4? If you do, be careful. Making the case of same-sex marriage are more than a few grown-ups will quite willing to question your integrity and goodwill. Children, of course, are rarely consulted. I would like to argue in the fact that he said the majority of Americans support gay marriage. Well, you said that for the first time in Gallup's tracking issue, the majority of Americans, 53% believe same-sex marriage should be recognized by the law. Well, I'm here to prove that Americans, they go through a cycle. Americans don't really know what they want. I have information here from the Washington Post poll that in May 31st through 6 in 2006, 36% wanted it to be legal for same-sex couples to be married, and 58% said it should be illegal. In April 21st through the 24th in 2009, it changed to where it should be legal. 49% said it should be legal, 46% said it should be illegal. And February 2nd, February 4th through the 8th of 2010, it changed again for Americans wanted to be illegal than legal. So that just kind of shows proof that Americans don't really know what they want. They could say that they support same-sex marriage, but something along the lines could happen to where they change their complete views about it. And this just shows proof. And Gallup, you referenced Gallup. Well, back in 2007, there was a majority of 50% that opposed to granting such same legal status, and 40% in favor to do so. So, through the support of legal marriage is significantly higher now than Gallup first asked about it back then. So, with that being said, I beg to ask that we should keep we should change the laws and keep it to where the same-sex marriage should be illegal.
Alright, so you mentioned sexual love several times when referring to homosexual couples. Do you feel that homosexual couples have the same type of feelings as any other human being?
I'm not gonna lie, it could possibly happen.
What's that?
It could possibly, if they have the basic agreement, you could say it could possibly happen.
What could happen?
Right. They could, I mean, they could have the same feelings as what heterosexuals do.
Okay, so you're not sure. So you're not sure if that sexual love is or is not the only thing that type of love they can have.
Yeah, but it just depends on how stressful it is, because statistics show that same-sex couples they are more inclined to have not much of a long-lasting relationship as heterosexuals.
Are you aware of the divorce rate for heterosexual couples? Pretty high. So you also mentioned the trending about beliefs about gay marriage. When did that trend start? Was that time?
Yeah, that was time.
I'm Cody Peck. The negative has still omitted to acknowledge to why it is necessary to oppress citizens of the United States. Every citizen of the United States should be given the same equal protection under our laws. The majority of American citizens support granting these rights to homosexual couples. according to the Gallup poll from 2011. 51% of Americans believe same-sex marriage should be recognized by the law as valid, with the same rights as traditional marriage. To not allow same-sex marriage is discrimination according to the 14th Amendment, which reads, all persons born under naturalized in the United States and of the state wherein they reside, no state shall make or reinforce any law which shall abridge the privilege or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any persons of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within the jurisdiction equal protection of the laws. Slippery slope is defined as a fallacy in which a course of action is objected to on the grounds that once taken it will lead to additional actions until some undesirable consequence results, according to dictionary.com. This is not a logical argument. Just because the speed limit in the United States was raised to 70 miles per hour does not mean that we're turning all of our highways into the Autobahn in the near future, nor is the drinking age being raised to 35 anytime this century. Comparing homosexuals to someone into bestiality is not only offensive, it's not even logical. What you're saying is that if your mom wanted to marry her best friend, she is now a dog. So if your mother marries her best friend, you're going to put a collar on her and walk her around the neighborhood. You're not going to allow her to eat at the table with the rest of the family. I would hate to live at your house. If you're going to say that gay marriage is a slippery slope, then I'm going to say that opposing gay marriage is a slipperier slope. Because if you're opposing gay marriage, then you're opposed to gay rights. And if you're opposed to gay rights, then that leads to hatred of homosexuals, and then that leads to racism and hate mongering. If you're not going to allow same-sex marriage, then let's not let them vote either. If we're going to take away one right, then let's take them all. Let's make separate water fountains, schools, and stores. Let's even make them sit in the back of the bus. Sound familiar? Parenting. First, what does parenting have to do with same-sex couples wanting to get married? Zach Walls, in an interview, he's from Iowa, now attending Iowa State, grew up with two moms. He talks about his life and growing up and how he wouldn't have had it any other way. He's 19. He scored in the 99th percentile on the ACT. He's an Eagle Scout and owns and operates his own small business. So you're saying that this man who loves his family and is successful as he has been, was he deprived from anything because he had two mothers and no father? No. According to Frederick Liu from Princeton University, this is a non sequitur argument. He states that traditional heterosexual marriage is the ideal setting for raising children, as Republican senators claim. The government is still not justified in depriving same-sex couples of the benefits of marriage. The same-sex relations fall short of the ideal for parenting does not render them shameful, let alone immoral. Trending. An article from 10 years ago is not relevant. Let's start teaching our kids to duck and cover from nuclear warheads as they did in the Cold War. We could also talk about how the world is flat. In 2011, it's time to move on. Our mothers and sisters are no longer belonging in the kitchen. African Americans are free and equal. Hugh Hefner is still alive. It's time to make same-sex marriage legal. Schooling, on the other side, says that if we allow same-sex marriage, that schools will teach same-sex relations are identical to heterosexual ones. But when did schools start giving relationship tips to children? Same-sex couples are not asking for their relationships to be pushed upon everyone. They just want the same rights as every other American. How do these citizens getting married affect you at all?
Okay. First off, I want to hear your opinions on, for y'all's side, why do you think Obama's being married?
I never said that I thought of it as Obama.
This on the side, zero.
Oh, well, number one, he's president. He's voted in by the majority of Americans.
Well, what makes you think that the Americans care to listen to his opinions? Because a lot of them, what happened and want them out of the office.
Well, as for Obama agreeing with same-sex marriage, I don't think that the decision should be left to
Stop.
Hi, my name's Jack. Just wanted to help in support of the slippery slope argument. The state of Missouri recently had a case where a man used the logic of a same-sex marriage activist when he described his long-term companion as, she's gorgeous and sweet. Why is the state of Missouri, as well as the federal government, displaying such heartlessness in denying the holy bonds of wedlock to this man and his would-be wife? Well, the state of Missouri wasn't prepared when they found out that the man's lover was a 22-year-old mare or horse named Pixel. So the question here remains, where is the line that will be drawn when it comes to the slippery slope if same-sex marriage is allowed? Now, to further continue, one thing that was found in my counterparts have previously stated that President Obama is a strong supporter of gay marriage, in which most certainly is true, but only as of recent days. During the Saddleback Conference during the 2008 election, Senator Obama at the time confirmed that he was against gay marriage or same-sex marriage. This leads towards a great inconsistency in the confidence of our nation's leader to legitimately want to actually press through a bill that will allow same-sex marriage in the United States. The affirmatives have previously stated that in the recent Democratic election fundraising to raise money for what? The election. That ironically, the irony of this is outstanding because now this is a huge issue. Obama's polls, his ratings in the polls are down even more, and now he has to find, politically he's got to find some way to be able to get on top, and honestly this seems like the best route for him. And now that, but I just don't find any credibility in our nation's leader that, or even in the fact, the rest of the politicians, that they would even want to press a bill through that would, or add an amendment that would allow same-sex marriage.
Why do you keep comparing humans to being animals?
I'm not comparing human beings to animals. I'm stating the fact that, if this one thing is allowed, now what about the person who wants to marry their horse? Now, will they be able to get the same benefits? If same-sex couples were allowed to marry, get those benefits for Social Security, would it be fair for someone who has a dog who wants to marry them, would they get those benefits too?
So you're saying marrying a dog would be like you marrying him?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay. So do you not agree that all people in the United States should have fair and equal treatment?
Yes, I do.
But you're saying that you don't think homosexuals should be allowed to be married.
Right.
But that's not fair and equal treatment.
Oh, shit, I guess you got me.
What
Okay.
does two humans
Stop.
of the same sex wanting to get married have to do with them being parents? A topic that not only has nothing to do with this, but is already legal.
So I should be that.
What does two humans of the same sex
Okay, stop.